All right, so we're gonna jump right into our first speaker, who's Dr. Denise Caldwell, and she's the Deputy Director of the Crime Scene Services and Evidence Control Section at the Baltimore Police Department. Welcome, Dr. Caldwell.
Good evening, everybody. Thank you so much, Dr. Maynard, for the invitation. I really appreciate it. Based on what you've shared about your mentoring program, I think it's a great thing, and I'm very happy to be a part. As you introduced me, I am the Deputy Director, actually Acting Director of Crime Scene Sciences and Evidence Management Section at the Baltimore Police Department. And I just happened into that career. My intention was to be a medical doctor, and it just didn't work out that way. But I happened in that career, and I've been there going on 23 years now. So, okay, so this just is up. Can you go back? Yeah, that's good. And that just sums me up in a nutshell. I was actually born in Columbia, South Carolina. I moved here when I was about 2 or 3. My parents split up and we moved back. My mother's from Baltimore. We moved back to Baltimore. I went to Baltimore City College, and then I went on to Howard, major in biology, minor in chemistry. Like I said, my intent was to be a medical doctor, but it just didn't work out quite that way. But it's okay. So I started working at the police department in February of 2000. And then I, felt like I still needed to be going to school. I still wanted to do something with health. So I went to Towson. I got my master's of science in women's studies with that concentration that you see on the screen, women in health. And then I was still working full time at the police department, swinging shifts, hitting the street. And, so I went on, got through that. And then I actually pursued my doctorate at Morgan. And all during that time, it took me quite some time to complete it, but I, matriculated on through and I got my doctorate. And during that time, I'm just climbing the ladder at at the BPD. Next slide. So I started out, like I said, February of 2000 as a crime laboratory technician 1. And the title of the position is kind of a misnomer, but it's a crime scene investigator, a crime scene person, that person or those persons who respond to the crime scenes and document, recover, and preserve the evidence that we find at crime scenes. I worked my way up to, you get promoted to a Tech 2, usually after about 10 years. That gives you a little bit of seniority. And then I became assistant supervisor, and then I became a permanent supervisor in 2012. And then over the years at BPD, of course, leadership changes and structure changes. So in 2017, I became the deputy director. It was actually a created position, and I got that position not too long after I finished my doctorate. You absolutely didn't need a doctorate for that position, but it just kind of worked out that way. So, I mean, forensic science is just applying scientific methods to criminal and civil law, in criminal investigations. We don't have to go through all of that, but forensic science has definitely been a rewarding career for me. It's one of those jobs where it's just real life. You're just up close and personal with real life. You're seeing people on, usually one of the worst days of their lives, and you're just out there exposed. Forensic science is a great path. When I first started in the field, I didn't, forensic science, like this over 20 years ago, wasn't quite popping and hot yet. CSI and all that wasn't that hot. But, as time has gone on, we have dozens of CSI shows, forensic files, all of that. And those things have influenced the forensic science field, and also influenced those who have, of course, encouraged those who are pursuing that pathway. Documentation, I already said that. crime scene just includes documentation, preservation, and collection of evidence at crime scenes. You definitely have to use your critical thinking skills. Most of us in the forensic science lab at BPD, we have either natural science degrees or forensic science degrees. And for the most part, if some have pursued that forensic science degree, they will have needed to have had some sort of natural science, because it's just the way that, your mind is trained, methodology, strategy in terms of critical thinking. And you're still, even though crime scene personnel may not be experts in terms of analysis, in terms of chemistry and DNA analysis and whatnot, we're not experts in that field, but we are responsible for, of course, understanding how those processes work. Crime scene unit, we're in Baltimore City. We respond to almost everything that you can think of. We don't normally respond to some property crimes like stolen autos or larceny from autos or things of that nature. But in terms of crimes against persons, we're readily responding to those things. Also, as a part of my supervisory duties now, I oversee the evidence management unit. And evidence management just refers to the intake, storage, and disposal of evidence. So when crime scene personnel or officers recover evidence from the scene, we have to store it at the property room. So in terms of evidence management, there are a lot of protocols that have to be in place to ensure security, to ensure that the evidence is preserved and not disturbed. Temperatures have to be regulated. There are a host of things that go into that. Evidence management is also now becoming a discipline, an aspect of forensic science, because there's so many things that have to be considered when you're storing the evidence and retaining that evidence. This is just, summing up what happens when we submit evidence. We submit that evidence and then we receive a receipt as to what we submitted, so that we have that receipt to go with our case file. And then, yep. And with, as I stated, with forensic science and crime scene at BPD, we require a minimum of a Bachelor of Science degree in physical science, forensic science, or criminalistics. And as I said, if you have that forensic science degree, you will have to have had some sort of natural science, whether it was in that curriculum at the institution that you attended, or whether you supplemented that with summer semester or winter semester or what have you. But at least half of our crime scene unit is pursuing or already has a graduate degree. So when we have hiring processes for crime scene technician, it's very competitive. It's usually 200 to 300 applicants, and it's very competitive because a lot of applicants are very enthusiastic, and they've done their due diligence in terms of seeking internships or networking. And so it's tough when you have to weed out some people, but it is a very rewarding career, and crime scene is a great place to start in a forensic science degree, in a forensic science career, because you get to see how it starts. Forensic science starts at the crime scene. So it's a great place to start in your career as a forensic scientist. Some forensic scientists do go into the analytical or the comparative fields, straight out the gate. But there are those who start in crime scene and then, make lateral moves or promote into other areas, other disciplines. So just some nuggets of wisdom. Next one, in terms of, what you would like to do, establish your goals, have a plan. Lots of times in undergrad, we're not we may not know exactly what we want to do, but you have to have some sort of plan as to how you can go about what you do. When I finished undergraduate school, like I said, I was thinking I was going to medical school, but it didn't work out like that. So I had to, that's okay. I had to reroute and, do some other thinking, but I still had to have a plan with that. Set realistic objectives. You set realistic goals. Just in terms of, for me, in studying and school and whatnot, I can't read I can't read 5 chapters tonight, but I might be able to read 1 chapter. I may not be able to write my 10-page paper today, but I might be able to write 2 or 3 pages. So it's just like set realistic goals for yourself so that you have a sense of accomplishment as you move through. You have to have a support system. Oftentimes when we do talks like this, or people ask, how do you deal with what you've seen on an almost a daily basis in your crime scene work? And it's just, have to have a support system. You have to. I wouldn't be, where I am or who I am without my family and my friends, without my faith foundation. In terms of school, like I've been going to school almost all my life, basically. So you had to have study groups. You have to access those resources that you have on campus. I can honestly say that I did not, utilize all my resources when I was in undergrad the way that I could have and the way that I should have. So I encourage you to definitely utilize the resources that you have. Like this tool, this program that we're in the midst of now is an awesome resource, and just maximize it. Take advantage of the opportunities that you have in front of you. Do not let them pass you by. When you have networking, like I said, internships, mentorships, what we're in the midst of right now, service projects, do not let those opportunities pass you by. And trust your journey. Embrace the journey that you're on. It has twists and turns, but it's your journey nonetheless. Like I said, I thought I would be a medical doctor today, but that was not the path that my journey took. It was not easy. It had twists and turns, but I still proved to be successful, and I'm grateful for the trials and tribulations that I had, because they molded me into who I am today. So just trust your journey, believe in yourself, and embrace that journey. Be encouraged. You can do it. It gets really daunting, whether you're doing your undergraduate work, whether you're doing your graduate work or your doctoral work, which is like one of the hardest things. But just trust it and just believe in yourself. Stay true to yourself and be encouraged. That's all I got.
Thank you so much, Dr. Caldwell. So those of you who have questions, you can start putting them in the chat, but what we'll do is have all the speakers go through, and then we'll take the questions at the end. So we're gonna have Bryant Bell up next.
Wow, that was powerful. That was powerful. I'm going to take a lot of those nuggets of wisdom and actually utilize it. So hi everyone, my name is Bryant Bell, and I'm going to be talking to you about an exciting career in cytopathology. As I said, next slide. Thank you. As I said before, my name is Bryant Bell, and I was born and raised in North Philadelphia. I have an exciting and interesting background. So I'm actually a high school dropout. I dropped out of high school back in like 2010. I went back and received my GED, which is equivalent to a high school diploma, exactly 11 years ago. Shortly after, I began working hard to obtain a higher education. I entered college too, intending to become a medical doctor. But through my exposure to laboratory medicine throughout my education, working as a lab assistant and as a cytology prep at Quest Diagnostics and Cooper University Hospital, I decided to be drawn to the clinical sciences. And as a result, I became a cytologist at Johns Hopkins. Next slide, please. So what is a cytologist? It's very exciting. It's an amazing career. I kid you not. So in simplest terms, a cytologist is a highly skilled clinical scientist that examines human specimens for inflammatory processes, diagnose precancerous and cancerous lesions. That's amazing. You're making an impact in patients' lives. So ultimately, we work by the side of pathologists who have medical degrees to deliver optimum care to the patient. Next slide, please. So if you become a cytologist, you get to look at cool things like this. This right here is a pap smear, a GYN case, showing a trichomonas vaginalis infection. Left untreated, that can cause severe health issues. Next slide, please. This right here also is another GYN case showing a low-grade intraepithelial lesion. This is a precancerous lesion, also related to HPV infection, which is the human papillomavirus. Next slide, please. This right here is a fine needle aspiration of a lung mass, right? This looks amazing. There's a lot of stuff going on here. And if you go to cytology school, you'll learn how to diagnose these things via the microscope. So this is actually a keratinizing squamous cell carcinoma. We have here a urine cytology case, and it's also depicting another carcinoma known as a high-grade urothelial carcinoma. So additioning to viewing non-GYN and GYN cases, we get to perform rapid on-site evaluations. That means you go into the operating room, you go to the thyroid clinic, and you basically look at cells underneath of the microscope as the procedurist is doing a biopsy. So this picture of this handsome guy here, myself, I'm in a thyroid clinic performing a rapid on-site evaluation. I'm working closely with the endocrinologist to obtain adequate cellular material so that we can perform a cytology diagnosis. And the medical team is right behind me, but for HIPAA reasons, I can't show the patient and the radiologist performing their task. Next slide, please. So how do you become a cytologist, right? You have to go to school. You have to study hard. So you can get a bachelor's in cytology, cytotechnology and cytopathology, and you can get a master's. I highly suggest everyone to get a master's. It puts you ahead to become like a supervisor position. You'll be more equipped to do validation studies when it comes to new equipment and procedures that are introduced in cytopathology as well. I went to Jefferson University. I did a 1 year master's program. Literally, like, it was the hardest thing I ever did, but it prepared me for my career today. And after you complete your education, you actually have to take a board certification exam through the clinical pathology organization. And you take the exam literally one time, and then you just have to renew your certification every 3 years. Next slide, please. So what are benefits of becoming a cytologist, right? In my opinion, low cost of education and salary, right? So it's very affordable. Cytology school is very affordable compared to medical school. Schooling ranges from 1 year to 2 year. And I suggest taking a 1 year route as I did. You'll save a lot of money. You'll be able to pay off your graduate loans within a year or two with the starting salary of $84K. But cytology positions are in high demand right now. You can negotiate a salary like at least 6 figures. I have people that I went to school with that are making like six figures easily with no experience straight out of school. So thank you guys for your time. If you have any questions, you want to follow me on LinkedIn or Instagram, I have a cytology page where I show all different types of cases. Thank you guys.
Thank you so much, Brian, for such a dynamic presentation. I mean, now I want to go and be a cytopathologist. I'm a pretend pathologist on some days. All right, so we're going to move on to Dr. Williams, who's going to tell us quite a bit about occupational therapy and physical therapy and the role, the track she took to get to the point where she is now.
Hello, can everyone hear me? All right. Yes, so my name is Dr. Katisha Williams. I am an assistant professor and fieldwork coordinator here at Notre Dame of Maryland University. I was born and raised in St. Croix, United States Virgin Islands. And after I graduated from high school, I flew up to Florida to live with my auntie, and I started school there. I started my education at Miami-Dade College, where I got my associate in arts degree in general studies. And then I transferred to Loma Linda University in California, where I got my physical therapy assistant degree, and that was an associated science degree. It was there that I saw some students with some weird gadgets in their hands. I'm like, what do they have in their hands, right? And I went to them and I asked them who they were and what they were studying and what these weird toys they had in their hand, right? It wasn't really toys, it was actually active equipment, but I didn't have time. So I researched and I studied and I fell in love with occupational therapy. And as soon as I completed my studies at Loma Linda University Physical Therapy program, I graduated. I flew back to Florida and I got into the last Bachelor's of Science program at Florida International University. So I lucked out there. And then I graduated with my Bachelor's of Science in Occupational Therapy. And from there, I landed my first job at Miami-Dade County Public Schools, in which I specialize now in pediatrics. So I started that job, I stayed there forever, and I've been mostly in the field of pediatrics since I graduated in 2005. I'm telling my age. And so I have since worked in a series of various settings, like the school system. I've worked in acute care. I've worked in skilled nursing facilities, outpatient PT and OT facilities, and OT and PT. You have a blast. So what is OT and what is physical therapy? What is occupational therapy and what's physical therapy? So occupational therapy incorporates your valued occupations into the rehab process. Occupational therapy and physical and occupational therapy assistants help people participate in their desired occupations with the therapeutic use of everyday activities based on the client's personal interests and needs. In occupational therapy, we treat mental disabilities, developmental disabilities, emotional ailments that impact our patients' daily activities. When it comes to physical therapy and physical therapy assistants are movement experts who improve quality of life through prescribed exercise, hands-on care, and patient education. Some of the things that we see in physical therapy that we treat in physical therapy are neurological conditions, pediatric conditions, female health, pelvic floor dysfunctions, skin conditions, etc. How I became interested in OT and PT. When I was in high school, I was an athlete. And growing up, most of my family members were in the medical field. And I didn't want to do nursing. I know I did not want to do nursing at all. That was not my thing, right? And since I was an athlete, I was like, I want to do something more, physical and stuff like that. So I researched and I found out about physical therapy. And so that is what kind of piqued my interest in the field of physical therapy. And I have not turned back ever since. Some of the challenges along the way. Well, I think some of the challenges for me when it came to PT and OT school was it is a very rigorous process. It is a very high demand field and entry is very hard. And so I kind of echo the sentiments of Dr. Caldwell, don't give up. It's not, if I could do it, you guys can do it too, right? Don't give up. It's a very challenging process, but at the end, you're going to see the light and you're going to graduate and you're going to get your license and you're going to do great things. Things that I wish I knew during undergrad, right? Some of the things that I wish that I knew during undergrad was I now know that there are some dual degrees in PT and OT. So you can go to school and get both degrees at the same time. I didn't know that. Wish I did. It would have saved me time, money, effort. So what I did, I went to PT and then OT, two separate processes, but I wish I knew I could have done it together to save you some money, time, effort, stress. career paths to OT and PT. So there are several career paths. You can become a certified occupational therapy assistant. It's a very rewarding field. In order to become a certified occupational therapy assistant, you go to school. I think it's a 2-year degree or 2.5, and it's an associate in science degree. For OT, it is a master's degree, and a lot soon they're pushing to get this to a doctorate degree, but for now, the minimum is a master's degree in occupational therapy. For physical therapy, there are 2 paths. You can become a physical therapist assistant, which is an associate in science, 2.5 years program, and then you have your occupational therapist therapy programs. And those are, like I said, a master's level programs. Physical therapy is a doctoral program. I'm sorry, I'm mixing up the two careers. So physical therapy is now a doctoral program, and that's the minimum standard. Again, both careers very rigorous and very in demand. And to get into the program, they have a lot of requirements, but again, you can do it. If we can do it, anybody can do it. I think both fields are very, very rewarding. I get to challenge myself every day. Currently, I teach, and that's an amazing process as well. But I try to stay grounded in the field. I just moved here to Maryland, so I'm trying to get back in the hospital and get my feet wet again. And so I just love PT and OT. So here at Notre Dame of Maryland, I'm going to plug for the university here. So I am currently in a doctoral of occupational therapy degree. It's a 3-year degree, and we have an application deadline. That's April 1st. However, if you can't get it in by April 1st, still put it in, look at it. We're going to start in the fall of every year. And so it would be really, really nice if you research, come on over. It's a great field. We love what we do. It's very rewarding. You get to practice in different settings. You get to practice in the hospitals. You get to practice in the clinics. You get to practice even in the jails, Dr. Caldwell. You even get to practice. You even get to practice in the schools, pediatrics, neuro, stroke. I love it. You name it. We do a lot for a patient and help them to get back to some sort of function. And so I would implore you to, consider, look into it. It's a rewarding, fulfilling career. And then I also share the sentiments of everyone, Mr. Bell and Ms. Caldwell, in terms of nuggets. Keep going. Don't give up. If one program tells you no, go to somewhere else, apply somewhere else, apply through the whole United States. Don't just stay in one state, go to California. That's what I did for physical therapy. I traveled all the way to California from Florida, and I did it. And so you can do it too. How people say the sky's the limit? I say this, go beyond the sky. It's no longer the sky's the limit. Go reach beyond the sky. And so I thank you for having me, Dr. Maynard, and for all of the students and all of the listeners out there. Feel free to reach out to me. We welcome questions. Any questions out there?
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Dr. Williams. We had 3 fantastic speakers today. I learned a lot, and hopefully the students in the audience learned something as well. In the beginning, I'm not sure what was my screen showing when I was listing the various careers and degrees.
I don't think so.
Okay, so I'm going to just show that now, and I'll have persons put their questions in the chat, or you can raise your hand and you can unmute and ask the questions yourself. All right, so I just wanted to show these slides again. All right. All right, so so this was the list of degrees that don't require a doctoral degree. as well as the salary on the side. So as you can see, if you're going straight from an undergrad, this is a pretty good start in salary, and you certainly can work your way through, in some cases, getting certificates and so forth and so on. And then this was a list of all the non-MD doctoral programs. Well, not all of them, some of them that I certainly didn't know about when I was in undergrad. Podiatrists make a lot of money, right? And most of these typically might be either about the same amount of time or less time than a medical degree, and most times are also more affordable. So certainly if something here piques your interest, I would go ahead and do some research and try to find out more. Again, if you're interested in the mentoring program, you can scan this QR code and be sure to follow us on LinkedIn. That's how you're going to know when the new workshops are coming out. And I also post job opportunities, summer internships, and all those things on there. So just go to LinkedIn and look for DPAC HBCU mentoring program, or you can scan this QR code and follow us there. So now the floor is open for questions. I'm going to stop the recording so anybody who's shy can still ask their questions and not be recorded.